Hi everyone, I'm Shelly and you're watching There's No Place Like Home. I'm back with another Question the Narrative video, and today's topic is called Falling Stars or Fallen Angels. This video is actually a follow-up video to one that I did just a few days ago called Question the Narrative, Divine Counsel Meets Divine Judgment, When the Stars Fall. The reason that I decided to do a follow-up video to this one, and that it's this one right here, is because I wanted to share with you an article by Bob Crookshank that has some very relevant information and elaborates more on what I had been talking about in that particular video. Now, the reason that I made this video to begin with was because I have had so many comments recently about Revelation 6. And it's specifically about this part, so that's what I'm going to share with you. I'm just going to read Revelation 6, 12 to 14. Before I do, though, I just want to say, if you have not watched the video that I just showed you, I recommend that you go back and watch that one first, because I go more deeply into the verses in that one. I'm going to just kind of glaze over them today because I already covered them a few days ago, but here we go. Revelation 6, verse 12. When he opened the sixth seal, I looked, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth. The full moon became like blood, and the stars of the sky fell to the earth as the fig tree sheds its winter fruit when shaken by a gale. The sky vanished like a scroll that is being rolled up, and every mountain and island was removed from its place. Now, I've been sharing a lot of videos recently about preterism because I have been researching it for the past few months. And one of the objections to preterism specifically is that people believe that there's no evidence that the stars have fallen, like it says that would happen in Revelation 6. In fact, people will say, well, look up in the sky, there's still stars up there. Or they'll say, look up, the sky has not been rolled back like a scroll. Now, I certainly would not deny that there is very likely some sort of physical aspect to this. I do not take this literally, and I'm going to share why. Very briefly, though, I just want to go over with you the premise of the video that I did previous to this one, that this one is kind of following up on. I had made an assertion or a hypothesis that when the Bible says that the stars are falling, and it doesn't just say it in Revelation 6, it says it several times that the stars are going to fall. Several of those times are in the Old Testament. And what I was thinking is that the stars that are falling very likely could be the gods, the lowercase g gods, who were placed over the nations in Deuteronomy 32, verse 8. And that is after the Tower of Babel. So Deuteronomy 32:8 says, when the Most High gave to the nations their inheritance, when he divided mankind, he fixed the borders of the peoples according to the number of the sons of God. Now, I also went over in that other video that another name for the sons of God in the Bible is very often they are called stars, or sometimes that's another word for angel. And many people believe that sons of God and angels are synonymous. One thing that I learned about all the instances of the sort of language that I just read to you in Revelation 6 is that this is actually called apocalyptic language. And it was repeated very often in the Bible because it was very symbolic in nature and it meant certain things. And what the stars falling meant was that there would be a judgment of rulers. And so I was thinking to myself, well, the stars falling, the angels are called stars, and these rulers are being judged. So could that be the time that God is judging those lowercase g gods that he put, oh, I'm on the wrong one, that he's judging the lowercase g gods that he placed over the nations? Is this finally the time where he's saying, I am casting you out of here and I am putting you under my feet? Now, these lowercase g gods, or Elohim, as they are often referred to, they were part of the divine council. And many people believe that the divine council were heavenly beings. And they get the divine council from Psalm 82. And I'm just going to read that to you. God has taken his place in the divine council. In the midst of the gods, he holds judgment. How long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? Give justice to the weak and the fatherless. Maintain the right of the afflicted and the destitute. Rescue the weak and the needy. Deliver them from the hand of the wicked. They have neither knowledge nor understanding. They walk about in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are shaken. I said, you are gods, sons of the Most High, all of you. Nevertheless, like men you shall die and fall like any prince. Arise, O God, judge the earth, for you shall inherit all the nations. Now, I know that some people believe that when it is talking about this, that they are actually just talking about men and not heavenly beings. But one thing that I want to point out here is that it says, like men you shall die and fall like any prince. Well, if they were already mere men, then this should come as no surprise to them, and I would see no reason that God would need to tell them that they're going to die like men. To me, it certainly seems like it's not something that they're expecting. In his book, The Unseen Realm, Dr. Michael Heiser elaborates on this even further. He says the real problem with the human view, though, is that it cannot be reconciled with other references in the Hebrew Old Testament that refer to a divine council of Elohim. Psalm 89 verses 5 through 7 explicitly contradicts the notion of a divine council in which the Elohim are humans. So let's go to Psalm 89 verses 5 through 7. It says, let the heavens praise your wonders, O Lord, your faithfulness in the assembly of the holy ones. For who in the skies can be compared to the Lord? Who among the heavenly beings is like the Lord? A God greatly to be feared in the council of the holy ones, and awesome above all who are around him. So Michael Heiser goes on to say, God's divine council is an assembly in the heavens, not on earth. The language is unmistakable. This is precisely what we'd expect if we understand the Elohim to be divine beings. It is utter nonsense if we think of them as humans. There is no reference in Scripture to a council of human beings serving Yahweh in the skies, Jews or otherwise. What Psalms 82 and 89 describe is completely consistent with Job 38:7, a group of heavenly sons of God. It also accords perfectly with other references to the sons of God as plural Elohim. So I just wanted to go over this with you quickly before heading over to this article, because I just wanted to give you at least a synopsis of what my last video was about. Just the idea that these falling stars in the apocalyptic language could very well be these Elohim that are being judged for improperly ruling the nations that the Lord handed over to them after the Tower of Babel. This article that I'm sharing with you is on burrowsofberea.com, and the author is Robert Crookshank, also known as Bob Crookshank. That's how I always heard of him. And the way that I actually became familiar with who Bob Crookshank was Berean Bible Church, because sometimes he does the messages there. And in fact, the very first video I ever saw by Berean Bible Church was one that was preached by Bob Crookshank. And it was specifically this one, The Millennium and the New Jerusalem in Preterist Perspective. And I was completely blown away by his presentation. So now back to his article. So he does have a blog on this website here, and I highly recommend that you take a look at it, because it's spectacular and filled with information, just as Revelations and Grace. I always bring that one up too. So now there's another one for you to check out. So I'm not going to go over this entire article here. I'm going to do the one specifically about the stars falling, because I'm trying to keep it to my topic, but I'm going to leave a link in the description box to this article and to everything else that I share with you here, verses or any other articles. I'll share that YouTube video that I just showed you. So if you want to read through it, you can certainly do that. But I just wanted to share with you the part specifically about what I'm discussing today. And as I'm scrolling through, I already went past it. And I'm going to start in the section called The Language of Cosmic Disturbance in the Old Testament. I also want to add that I was pretty excited because I watched the sermon from Berean Bible Church that was just done this past Sunday. I got to watch it later on after it was already, posted. It wasn't live. But Pastor David Curtis, he said the same thing that I had been asserting, that these stars that are being referenced are these Elohim, the lowercase g gods. And I was like, yes, I'm not the only one that thinks that. So anyway, let's just read what this says here. The prophecies of Isaiah are a good place to start in understanding the scriptural precedent for the language of cosmic disturbance. For example, Isaiah 24:21 says that the Lord will punish the host of heaven on high and the kings of the earth on earth. J. Richard Middleton explains how an ancient reader would have understood the prophet's words here. Elsewhere in the Old Testament, as in the ancient Near East generally, it is quite clear that celestial bodies can stand for angelic or divine beings, which are either good or evil. In some texts, they are Yahweh's servants, as when the morning stars sang together and all the heavenly beings shouted for joy at creation. Presumably, the stars in Judges 5 represent heavenly forces coming to the aid of God's people. The stars fought from heaven. From their courses they fought against Sisera. This gives support to the idea that God's punishment of the host of heaven in Isaiah 24:21, in parallel to kings on the earth, is a reference to judgment on false gods. So let's just stop right there and let's just read what Isaiah 24:21 specifically says. Okay. It just gets right to the point. On that day, the Lord will punish the host of heaven in heaven and the kings of the earth on the earth, which is basically what that just said. But I wanted to take a look at it specifically to see what it said, unless it did say that and I completely missed it, which probably did happen. Echoing this Old Testament imagery, Jesus says that the stars will fall from the sky and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Matthew 24:29. Similarly, in the book of Revelation, John sees the stars of the sky falling to the earth as unripe figs shaken by the wind. And that's the one that I shared with you earlier in Revelation 6:13. In this passage, John is recycling more of Isaiah's stock vocabulary for the judgment of the false gods in the unseen realm. All the host of heaven shall rot away, and the skies roll up like a scroll. All their hosts shall fall, as leaves fall from the vine, like leaves falling from the fig tree. Isaiah 34:4. Does that sound familiar to you? So, in context, Isaiah is talking about the time when the sword of the Lord would descend in judgment upon Edom, which occurred in the 5th century BC. Obviously, the sky didn't literally roll up like a scroll because it's still spread out over top of us. Isaiah's cosmic language indicates that the judgment would not only be upon the people of Edom, but upon Edom's gods as well. This is similar to the Exodus, where God's judgment came upon both man and beast and against all the gods of Egypt. And that was in Exodus 12:12. The language of cosmic disturbance in the New Testament. If this is how the language was used in the Old Testament, this is how it should be understood in the New Testament as well. Tying Isaiah 34:4 with Revelation 6:13, Michael Heiser, and he is the one that wrote the book that I was just reading to you from before, The Unseen Realm, same person, puts it together for us. Because he's drawing specifically on Isaiah 34:4, when you go to Revelation 6:13-14, he talks about the stars of heaven falling. He's not talking about an asteroid catastrophe. We're not talking about something NASA can defeat. Dispense with the uber literalism. We're talking about the judgment of cosmic powers of darkness along with suffering and apocalyptic violence on the earth. These two things go together, folks. This is the Deuteronomy 32 worldview. This is the Daniel 10 worldview. The powers on earth, behind them are other supernatural powers that are using them, manipulating them, steering things to the ends to that they want. If in Revelation we're describing the judgment of human powers that are persecuting believers, you would think that John wouldn't leave out the judgment of the fallen gods of the Old Testament, the corrupt sons of God from Psalm 82, the princes of the nations from Daniel 10. James Jordan concurs, writing, "In this way, the astral symbols are given peculiar coloring depending on context. The Babylonians worshiped the stars, and so they are extinguished. The Egyptians worshiped the sun, so God darkens it. The stars weren't literally extinguished, and the sun wasn't literally darkened, but God literally judged those nations and their gods." Circling back to Peter's use of Joel 2:31 and the moon turning to blood, Acts 2:20, the audience on that day included Jews and proselytes from all over the Roman Empire, including Mesopotamia, and that's from Acts 2:10. Just as the Egyptians, who were also there on that day, worshipped the sun, the Mesopotamians worshipped the moon. Peter's message was that Jesus had been exalted to the right hand of God. That's from Acts 2:33, and it was lights out for the gods of the other nations. They were judged. As these new believers returned home after the day of Pentecost, the gospel would penetrate and permeate the nations from which they came, and they would bring Peter's message with them. The territorial deities who formerly had dominion over them were being displaced, disarmed, and defeated. The stars fall, the sun is darkened, and the moon turns to blood as the morning star arises in the hearts of Jesus's followers. And that is exactly what I think is happening when it is talking about the stars falling to the earth. I mean, first of all, most of you realize that I firmly believe in biblical cosmology. So I don't think that they're balls of gas flying onto the earth. I don't think that it would have meant that anyway. And in fact, only one of those stars, if they were actual suns, if that was actually the case, not even one of them would have been able to fall to the earth, because the earth would have been completely obliterated way before that. Even if you're thinking of like fireballs, even if you think that they're just some sort of light in the sky, fireballs flying down to the earth, and people are like, look, they're still up there in the sky. Because I don't think that's specifically what that is talking about. I believe it is talking about the judgment of the gods, who are also known as stars. So now, just going back to Revelation 6 really quickly, I do want to say one thing though. So I'm not saying that there was never a great earthquake. Of course, there could have been a great earthquake that happened at that time. And I have even said that that could have been the cause of what we believe. We call it the mud flood, but we don't really know what it was caused by. But an earthquake would cause soil liquefaction. And when it says the sun became black as sackcloth, well, let's just point out that around 79 AD, when Mount Vesuvius erupted, there was thick black smog all throughout the entire sky. And yes, the sun would have been blackened. And the full moon becoming like blood, it very well could have appeared like that too, depending on what sort of pollution was in the air at that time. Let's not also forget that we've got the destruction of Jerusalem going on in AD 70. You've got fires everywhere. You have all of that smoke up in the sky. So yes, when you are looking at these things in the sky, it very well could have looked like what is described here. But I don't think that it was literally as black as sackcloth. I think it just appeared that way from what was up in the sky, if that is the case. And when it even says about the sky being rolled up like a scroll, have you ever seen the clouds in a really major thunderstorm? I remember driving home not too long ago. There was a tornado warning going on, and I live in Pennsylvania, so we don't really get tornadoes here. But there was going on a tornado warning going on at that time. And as I was driving home, I was driving past all of these fields. So it was very flat. There's a lot of mountains in Pennsylvania, but where I was driving at, it was really flat, and I had a really good unobstructed view of the sky. And the clouds were terrifying. Now, I did not take this picture. I just found this on DuckDuckGo. This isn't exactly what I saw, but it's just to demonstrate to you that when really terrible storms are taking place, the sky can be pretty terrifying. And I'm assuming that the clouds could very much look the same too if you are dealing with smoke from fires. And if God is judging the nations, I would certainly expect some of these, what do they call them? Forces of, quote, nature. I would expect weather like that at the time of these gods being judged. I wouldn't expect it to be a peaceful, tranquil night. So that's something else that I do want to point out here, is that I do believe that apocalyptic language has its meaning, but I think that it may very well be rooted in more visual things, but it just may not be exactly, like literally, as it is described. Like the sky may not literally be rolled up like a scroll. It may very well just appear to look that way. That's just my opinion, okay? But anyway, I think that I shared with you everything that I wanted to, so that's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one either here or over on Instagram. And if you like my work and would like to check out my YouTube membership, I will leave a link in the description box for that, or you can just click on it right on my channel page. And I hope you have a great day.